trips that our cost estimates are low. We need to revise those, and we'd like to find out what influence those cost estimates have on the apportionment of funds. Are the funds apportioned by cost estimates for replacement, or are they apportioned by total number of bridges and their condition, or in other words, get into some of the ABCs of how is this money broken down?
Okay. Now, do you have the printouts that we have sent you, and have you checked those printouts that we've sent you with the information that you sent us on your tapes? And does that verify with what you've sent us?
So far it does. Now, I think what you're talking about is, I'm sure this is a familiar form to you, and so far everything is verified in that regard, but I think he's going to want some additional things as far as our printouts. You know, we have our own sufficiency tape that we run our sufficiency formulas. Those things match.
Placement are taken from a group of bridges that we selected and sent to you. They are not taken off the total list based on sufficiency rate. We select a group of candidate bridges and send those to you, and then you run that and set the sufficiency rate and priorities based on our inventory and inspection.
Inventory program. Now, whenever you want a bridge to be funded with special bridge replacement funds, the state's required to send in those candidates for that funding. When we get the candidates, we then run them through the program for funding with SDR funds. Now, this is a point that I did not realize until 2 days ago. Well, that's the difference. Now, you have been involved in the whole program since the beginning, and I didn't realize it.
One question relating to that. Does the list of candidate bridges that we send in for replacement have any bearing on the way the funds are apportioned between states? If we just sent in, we have 492 or something like this as candidates for replacement. Now,
we have an adjustment. I want to get the cost. That's what I'm trying to find out. Which I want to get it. I don't want to get into all of this.
Before I do, and that is because of this money to off-system, I want to ask the question, what kind of an inventory and inspection system do you have for your off-system bridges?
For that 10 work bridges, that information is coming in. Jerry, you set a end of August deadline for it.
That's correct.
We will have 670 bridges for you within 2 months.
That's bridges are bad, but I want to tell you how it's going to affect you.
Right.
We're basing on our allocation to Alabama on the on-system bridges, how bad they are and so forth. But if the off-system becomes a major part of this program, and you're based on your on-system, in other words, a state has good on-system bridges, but their off-system bridges are poor, they're not going to get much money to help with that off-system, even though 30% of that is to be used for off-system. So I want to emphasize the importance of having a good handle on it. Knowing you can work bridges, that's great, but on the whole thing, even if it's a cursory, the short form, which you're going to discuss here, getting that into us so that we have some handle on how bad the off-system bridges is, that, again, is going to give you a better allocation.
Tom, let me say one thing on that. Most of our counties at our local meetings, have stressed the off-system for this very purpose you're speaking of,
right.
And just for Dallas County, one county that I work for.
I think we can Bill stepped out a minute, back up a little bit. I've been into this thing about 3 or 4 months now. So as far as how the funds are allocated and are they based on the total inventory, to answer that question, and let me back up just a little bit, and I hope Paul will correct me if I'm wrong when I get into this thing, but as I understand it, the way it works is you all have your total, let's say just your federal aid system bridges, and you inventory all of them, and this is done at this point. And from that total inventory, we ask the computer to give us those bridges that are functionally obsolete and or deficient. And we get a big list from that, and I don't know how many it is for Alabama.
We have those two printouts on the structurally efficient, functioning, obsolete.
Okay, you have about 600 bridges currently that are in that classification. And we take those 600 bridges, and I think we asked all the states throughout the country here about within the last 6 months to give us what their average cost for constructing bridges were. In the case of Alabama, it was $26, I think, a square foot. And then we would...
Like it or not, to fund it with that, that's entirely within the state. We don't have anything to do with that. We just merely provide you with the computer printouts that you have and which bridges are eligible, and then you...
If we skip one and go to another, and as far as construction, do we have to justify?
No.
Can we pick any bridge off that list? They would not have anything in our replacement program that was not.
So like
That printout we get as far as that we get back from them on Canada bridges. A sufficiency rating that could be.
That's what I'm saying, so any of the bridges on our list for candidate
Could be picked.
I wanted to see that also.
if it's not on
I
their
think
list.
it's the
Right.
printout I'm
Well,
thinking of, but I wanted to see
Our
how you
list
did
is their
that.
list.
Well,
It says, you know, what order do they have to pick them in? Well, it doesn't make any difference, because generally you've got more bridges than what you've got money.
Yes.
That's not, you know, that's not the problem. Okay. Now, once we get the, I want to get to this right now, okay? Now, once we get all of this information in, inventory. We'll go through all of the bridges that you send us that are on the inventory. Now, where we run into one problem is sometimes we get bridges for special bridge replacement that are not on the inventory. Or it'll show up on the inventory and it won't show up on the SBR. Now, the first thing, it's inconsistent. And we have a hard time explaining this to Congress, why a state's got it on one list and it's not on another list.
No.
Mr. Keller.
Okay. I would be interested to know your opinion of the situation and what. Mr. Bowers, how serious is the problem of deteriorating bridges in the United States?
Well, it's extremely serious, and it's not anything that's unique to one state or another, because after we conducted a national program of cataloging the bridges in this country, we found out that each and every state had a terrible problem with bridge deterioration. One of the things I think is that most of the bridges were constructed about the same period of time, somewhere during the 1920s and 1930s, and that the lifespan of those bridges were about 50 years, and so if you add the two together, you can logically see that we probably should have expected a problem of this proportion, but we didn't really anticipate how great it would be. And after we cataloged some 250,000 bridges in this country, we found that a number of them were in very serious shape.
What can be done to alleviate this problem? Now, it appears that we might be about 20 years overdue in replacing some bridges and doing real serious maintenance on them.
Well, it's true. One of the things that we're doing, we are asking for a tremendous increase in the bridge replacement program in the new highway legislation. There are several figures being batted around. The administration had requested around $500 million. The House bill currently is somewhere in the vicinity of $1.5 billion, and the Senate bill is somewhere in between. So you can see from these figures that whatever figure comes out in the final conference report, it'll be substantially more than the $180 million that was allocated for bridge replacement during the past year on a nationwide basis. And I think this reflects our concern and the concern within the Department of Transportation for this serious bridge program and bridge problem. Another thing that we've asked to do, and I think this is very substantial in nature, is that for the first time the money can be used in rehabilitation of bridges as opposed to total restoration, a total replacement. In the past, bridge replacement money was just that, bridge replacement money, and you had to replace the structure totally. And we found that some of the bridges could be saved and could be brought up to par by restoration, so this money will be available for that. And a second and last important change that I think is that the states can use this money in off-systems bridges, which means bridges off the federal aid system. Because when we did our